Pate here with you at 760 KFMB, the AM 760 KFMB. Susan Knowles is our special guest. She's one of San Diego's own. She's a former practicing attorney, the author of Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. She contributes to The Blaze, and she is the host of Stand for Truth Radio. Her website is susanknowles.com. You can go check that out at any time, but right now I say you check her out right here. Good afternoon, Susan Knowles. How are you?
Good, Lou. How are you?
I am doing okay. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here. Before we get into it, one thing, I was sitting there during the break, and we've been talking a lot about the presidential campaign and, the cruise bots out there and the establishment suck-ups. And I don't even know if you're one of them, so I got to watch what I say. One thing I've noticed, there's only been 2 callers today where you can have a spirited discussion and agree to disagree and where people don't get angry at you. I notice a lot of the cruise people, they're angry. I had a cruise, I think it was Steve in San Diego a little while ago. Great caller. We disagreed on everything, Susan, but it was a great conversation. And, at the end of the day, you just agree to disagree because it becomes a round robin. And you don't see that in the political discourse today. There's just so much. If they disagree, it's instant hate. It's just, it's like, one lady called up. She's like, oh, I like Mike. And she implied that she didn't like me. That's fine. But the reason she doesn't like me is because we have different political views. And you shouldn't judge someone based just because you disagree politically, because there's more to life than that. But that's what we're finding in this. Are you finding that in your travels, Susan?
Well, I'd have to say that, in all fairness, the people on the cruise side, the cruise supporters, feel that the Donald Trump supporters are filled with as much hate for them, and you're not allowed to even talk to them. And I know that I've tried to talk sort of neutral to both parties, and a lot of times I find that the Donald Trump people on social media will just go ahead and block me. We don't even get to have a discussion.
Well, yeah, social media, people get their typing keyboard muscles on. They get braver than they wouldn't do that in front. They wouldn't try to shut. When they shut you down in a conversation like that and refuse to communicate, that just means they've lost the argument. They cannot hold up their end of the deal. But anyway, it's a weird phenomenon. But Susan Knowles, like I said, one of San Diego's own, Stand for Truth Radio is her show. You can check it out at susanknowles.com. Susan, we're going to take calls, and we got a couple of callers holding. We're going to get to you guys, 800-760-KFMB. Susan, lots going on with the presidential race. One thing no one's talking about, it's unprecedented. The front runner in the Democratic Party is about to be interviewed by the head of the FBI, James Comey. And all I'm seeing every time I look up at my screen here is Trump this, Trump that. They're going through his old books. They're going through speeches he gave. They're analyzing with a fine-tooth comb what he said to Oprah back in 1983. And no one's talking about Hillary being investigated and interviewed by the FBI. Is that not an amazing phenomenon?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it really is, because it is something that we should be talking about. But I think one of the things is that we're so used to seeing Hillary in the news for doing things and being accused of things, like Benghazi, the emails, anything else that you can imagine, of Whitewater years ago. We've just gotten used to it. So it's kind of like, okay, we know that Hillary's done that, and we'll talk about that later. But now let's get back to Trump. And I think Trump's so much in the news because let's face it, he has a big ego. And he makes a presence. He wants to be known, and I think people are giving him that attention. And
he's ratings gold.
Absolutely.
That's why all the people in the media who literally hate him love him for his ratings grabbing capability. And cruise supporters are mad that he's getting this much coverage. Well, then I say to cruise supporters to be as interesting as Trump. If Cruz was as interesting as Trump, the whole problem started before, Susan, because all I said was that Cruz was given the opportunity to put to bed the allegations of adultery, and he didn't. He made it worse by not answering the questions. And as you know, as they say, it's not the scandal; it's how you handle the scandal. So, back to Hillary. Speaking of scandals, I wish I had a chance to interview the shrew. Because when is somebody going to finally say to her, listen, all of the political controversy that you have looked at in your career has all been brought on by you and your husband. she threw out that whole vast right-wing conspiracy thing years ago, and the media loved it so much they won't put it down. She still blames everything on Republicans. I guess it was Republicans, Susan, who made Bill Clinton, do what he did with Monica Lewinsky dozens of times. I guess it was the right-wing conspiracy that forced Hillary to lie about being under sniper fire. I guess it was the right-wing conspiracy that made her come up with the term bimbo brigade and really personally got with the right-wing forced her to try to ruin the lives of women that Bill had affairs with because it put his presidential aspirations, in jeopardy. All of this is the Republican. When is someone going to say to her, listen, you're full of crap. All of this is brought on by yourself and your sexual predator husband. When is someone going to say that to her?
Nobody's going to say that to her, because if you go out on the streets, and they've done that in San Diego even, they go out on the streets, they talk to people, young people mostly, and they talk about Hillary Clinton, and people absolutely love her, and they don't even remember. A lot of these kids that they're talking to weren't even alive, and those are the young people that are going to be voting. They weren't even alive when Whitewater and everything else was occurring, or they were small children, and they don't know about Hillary. All they know about is that, A, it's time for a woman to be president, and B, it looks like Hillary's it. Unfortunately.
Was it the Republicans who forced her to lie about Benghazi? I mean, she lied about Benghazi. She said it was because of a video. She stood there on the tarmac of the airport. She stood in that hangar with the 4 caskets in front of her and lied about why these men were murdered by terrorists. I mean, they don't know that. I mean, that's true.
A lot of people think, unfortunately, that Benghazi was just something that the Republicans made up and wanted to talk about. And I think some people have an attitude of, it's something that happened in the past, and it's over with. And for the families, it's not over with. It's far from over. And to have her stand there and lie, to have the president stand there with the coffins and say the things that they did, and knowing that it wasn't about a video, who could ever forget or forgive something like that?
Just 2 weeks ago, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, Susan Knowles, Hillary Clinton said, "We lost no one in Benghazi." I mean, I don't even know what that means. I mean, you look at the 4 people that died, including an American ambassador who, I loved it when the media said that he was her friend. Hillary has no friends. Hillary has one friend, Hillary. That's her only friend. I mean, to make statements like this, but the media won't cover it because they're in the tank for her. They know she's going to be the nominee, and they all want to win favor. And let's face it, if you go against Hillary Clinton, you find yourself on the outside looking in. And that's what they're afraid of. I mean, look at, he's a weasel, but David Schuster from MSNBC said that the Clintons were pimping out their daughter, and the guy lost his job.
Yeah.
I mean, Hillary and Bill made the phone call, and the guy lost his job. I mean, I'm not a fan of David Schuster, but I did not think he needed to lose his job for that.
But that's the way the Clintons work, and they have worked that way for a number of years. That's the way Obama's work. They're professionals at doing this. They are the elite in the Democratic Party. People are afraid of them. The media is afraid of them. And if you think it was bad or is continuing to be bad with the media and Obama, just wait. If Hillary gets in, how bad it's going to be. Because it seems that she can do nothing wrong, or at least if she does something wrong, we never really get to a point where we bring charges against her. She's still walking around, even though a long time ago, FBI Director Comey, this is when he was investigating her under Whitewater, he found that there was a highly inappropriate pattern of deliberate misconduct when she supposedly told the people that were being investigated, her own people, to hide information, not hand over information, and yet she's still walking around. So, she has 9 lives.
I've said many times Obama is corrupt because it is obvious to me that he has instructed the DOJ not to indict her, because there's actually people in federal prisons, Susan, who have done less than Hillary Clinton in the same vein. I mentioned this yesterday, and who are sitting in a jail cell as we speak, who have done less than Hillary Clinton, and yet because if they indict her, it hands the election to the Republicans, whoever the nominee will be, and Obama just can't have that. He always puts party above the law, and obviously party above the people. But hold that thought, Susan Knowles. We'll take a quick break. She is our special guest. She is the author of Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. She contributes to The Blaze, and she is the host for Stand for Truth Radio at SusanKnowles.com. You want to get on the conversation? Join us at 800-760-KFMB. Lou Pate in for Mike Slater on the AM 760 KFMB. Welcome back to the Mike Slater Show. Lou Pate here with you. Susan Knowles, our special guest. She is the author of Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember, and the contributor to The Blaze, as well as the host of Stand for Truth Radio. Susan, can Bernie get the nomination? I mean, mathematically, it's virtually impossible, but Hillary was up 48 points in New York, her quote-unquote, the carpetbagger's home state. And, you know, she's from Illinois, she's from Arkansas, she's from New York, she's from everywhere. Now it's down to 12 points. Bernie is resonating with the extreme left, and she's losing support amongst, she never had it with young people, but now she's losing support amongst women. Why is that?
Women, but she certainly is among the white voters. I know right now with white voters, it's pretty much a split between Bernie and Hillary. And with women and African Americans, I think it's more pro-Hillary than it is Bernie. But, you know, Bernie's been doing a lot of talking lately. He's getting a lot of support. People on the Democratic side, especially progressives, are really, what he's saying is resonating with them. So I don't think this is over, although, you know, if you're going up against a Clinton, maybe it's over before it even gets started.
She'll probably win New York. She'll probably win the nomination. But I got to say, I disagree with everything Bernie stands for. But, you know, what is it about Bernie? He's 74 years old. He's a socialist. He's making promises that he knows he can't deliver on. I mean, I'm not one of these, you know, people who says that, you know, young people are stupid. But I will say this. Are they not listening to what he's actually saying? Or are they caught up in the whole it's cool to feel the burn? Just like it was cool to, you know, follow Obama 7 years ago and people mindlessly just pulled the lever for him.
I think part of the problem is that in our public schools for a number of years, we've taught the millennials that socialism is a good thing and that capitalism is a bad thing. And so we have a candidate now who's coming out and talking about how great socialism is. And a lot of the millennials are thinking, you know, I'd like to go to school and I would like for my education to be free. That would be a great thing. And other things that he's promised, other free things. Everything is free. So looking at that without thinking about what that really means and who's going to actually pay for it, again, this is what we've taught millennials to think in our public school system for about 100 years. It's just been very subtle, and we've just come to the point where more and more candidates now are actually coming out and saying, hey, I am a socialist, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, but, you know, it falls into the argument with what's going on in California with the minimum wage. It's like, who doesn't want people to make more money? At the end of the day, who's going to pay for it?
Exactly.
You know, it's like, of course I want everybody to make more money, but you want to pay for more for goods and services? Then everybody goes, well, no, of course, but they should make more money. Can't have it both ways. Hold that thought, right. Susan Knowles. Her website is SusanKnowles.com. You can follow her on Twitter at Susan Knowles. She's going to join us on the other side of the break. I know you're there, Marcus. I know you're there. Hector, we're going to get to you, and we're going to talk about the GOP race as well here on the Mike Slater Show with Lou Pate filling in on the AM 760 KFMB. Lou Pate here with you, along with Miles, along with Eric. It's a team effort, bringing it to you, making it happen. Our special guest is Susan Knowles. She's a former practicing attorney, the author of Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. She contributes to The Blaze as well, and she is the host of Stand for Truth Radio. Susan, thank you for remaining with us. When is the next Stand for Truth radio show? And I know that I believe that they can get the other shows on your website at SusanKnowles.com, correct?
Yes, and we're on every Monday night at 6 o'clock p.m. and 9 o'clock Eastern.
And right here out of San Diego, right?
Right out of San Diego.
San Diego's own Susan Knowles. Now, Susan, I appreciate your time because I know that you have to get your Guns N' Roses tickets. And you heard the news at the top of the hour that they are getting back together. And yes. So after you get out of here, I know you're going to blaze and get your tickets. You're going to be online. Is that correct?
just going to run right on over there. Yeah.
And listen, I'll tell you what. I do have to correct that report, though. It was a national report. They did play the Troubadour, but I'm a big GNR fan. But they shot to fame at the Cat House. Okay, the Cat House in West Hollywood is where it all went down. For those who were fortunate enough to be there in the early days. The Guns N' Roses at the Cat House is akin to think about when the Doors were the house band at the Whiskey A Go Go. Okay, it's on that level. But they did play the Troubadour, but the Cat House is where they really got it. Cat House is no longer around. Anyway, Susan Knowles, the Republican side. Folks, I don't even know where Susan stands. For all I know, she could be a Cruz supporter, a Kasich supporter. I don't know where she stands, but I like her work. I love her radio show. I love her writings on the Blaze. She's as straightforward as they come. So that's why we have her on here. So it doesn't matter where she stands. We have her here for her analysis. But have you ever seen such vitriol, condemnation of a candidate as what is going on with Trump on like channels like CNN and others, where it's just 24/7 anti-Trump? No candidate in history would survive this onslaught. And, he's going to lose Wisconsin because of it. And he did give his enemies ammunition with the abortion comments. But have you ever seen anything like this?
I haven't seen anything like this election ever in my lifetime. I would have to say this is the most bizarre, unusual election I've ever seen. I'm waiting for it. I just want it to be over in a lot of respects. And I hope that somehow we can learn from this election and not have this happening because, we need to come together as the Republican Party, and we are anywhere but together.
We have to come together as a Republican Party. I agree, even though I'm NPA, no party affiliation, but obviously I lean right. We have to come together as a nation, too. People don't seem to understand Muslim terrorists want to kill us. Putin is not exactly a friend, although I think he'd be a friend of ours against the terrorists, but then he'd go back to being our enemy again. The economy is in shambles. This president has done an abysmal job with his hodgepodge healthcare law there that, according to a recent poll by NPR, and you know that they're in bed with the president, only 15% of people who signed up for Obamacare are happy with it. Race relations are probably at the worst they have ever been in the modern era, obviously post-slavery. And we're arguing about who has an uglier wife and who committed adultery. And as I've said before, that's part of it. I think that's part of what the Washington elite does. Susan, feel free to disagree. I think that's what the Washington elite does. They throw this catnip out at us, and we argue about it. And meanwhile, the real issues, are not addressed. They're never addressed, and nothing ever changes. They only get worse. At least they have in the last 7 years.
Yeah, when you look at it, the Democratic Party, they have two candidates. It's going to be between either one of those, and that's it. With us, we have three. One, Kasich, I have no idea why he is still in, other than the fact that he's getting George Soros money and a lot of it to stay in so he can lead us down the road to a brokered convention is what I'm sure that he's a part of. Just my opinion, though.
No, wait, listen. Wait, hold on. Back up a second. I heard the thing about Soros, and how does John Kasich, I'm the old mailman's son, shucks, from Ohio. I don't want to get involved in this. Yesterday, he's delivering the talking points for the Republican establishment on why Trump isn't qualified. He's total establishment pawn and puppet. So how does he cross paths with George Soros, though? I mean, I know that's true, but how did that come to be?
Sometimes I think George Soros looks for the weaker people so that he can control them. And I think Kasich is a perfect example. I didn't even really know about Kasich. Of course, I'd heard of him, but didn't know that much about him until he got into this election. How did a guy from Ohio that nobody knows get into a Republican election, stay in after Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, and some other better candidates have gotten out? See, that's the real question.
And even Jeb Bush got more votes than him.
And that's hard to believe. But you'd think that Soros would maybe buy out Jeb Bush, but maybe that tells you that Jeb was a little bit stronger than Kasich. I don't know.
Well, he definitely has more character than Kasich. He might not be, a great presidential candidate. That doesn't mean he wouldn't be a good president. He wasn't a good campaigner, and you got to get over the campaign hump. Look at, Bill Clinton, great campaigner, horrible president. Obama, great campaigner, horrible president. So, maybe a horrible campaigner would be a great president. Maybe it works backwards, Susan. I don't know. But the thing I have always felt, I've heard of Kasich. Not many people have, but I'm a news junkie, and I've worked as a producer, and I've actually booked him on shows when he was a congressman. Okay, and he was known for balancing budgets and things like that. He was a very, very strict when it came to fiscal aspects. Now, when he jumped onto the national stage, I always felt he was going to be the backup. First, they were going to stick Carly Fiorina in there. I always felt the fix was in for Carly Fiorina to be the VP nominee. And because it fights the whole war on women act that the Democrats have going and the narrative that the media pushes forward, which is totally a lie. But then Carly just, she's the ice queen. There is nothing likable about her. I mean, if she said she loved Santa Claus, they'd probably cancel Christmas. That's just how her word her word is like kryptonite to everything. So she wasn't likable, so they got rid of her. And then Kasich's the backup to the VP ticket, I always thought, because the winning party has to go through Ohio. For those folks who don't know, I believe it's 18 electoral votes in Ohio are extremely important. And look, Bush only beat Kerry because he won Ohio. Okay, that's how important it is. And remember last with Romney, they were waiting for Ohio to come in, Susan. That's when Karl Rove made that blunder on Fox News, say, "Oh, it's not over." Meanwhile, Cleveland came in, the county of Cleveland, and where Cleveland resides, that's where the most votes are, and it was over. And he's telling Fox News, no, it's not over. He looked like a fool, yet they still put him on there. But anyway, the thing is, so I thought he was hanging in for that reason. But now, it makes no sense as to where his loyalty resides, because he can't win. He's only won one state. He's been adamant that he will not be Trump's VP nominee. The establishment is trying to steal the nomination from Trump, and if Cruz thinks, as much as he sucks up to them, he's going to get it, he's not. They're going to give it to someone else, Paul Ryan or Jeb Bush, or what did Karl Rove came out today and said, we need a fresh face.
Yeah, Karl Rove doesn't like Trump or Cruz. I know that you think that Cruz kind of sucks up to Karl Rove, but see, I don't see it that way.
He's trying, but it's not working with Rove, but he's trying to suck up to that whole side. It's just some are warming to him and some are not.
Well, I know that as long as he's been a senator, nobody's liked him. He's in the GOP. Even the junior senators don't like him because he doesn't do what they want him to do. He stands for what he says he stands for, and he follows through. And that's not what the GOP likes. They want somebody who's going to fall in line, do what they say. And Cruz isn't doing that. And I know a lot of people maybe don't like Cruz. It's his personality. He's not gregarious. He doesn't come out. He doesn't make a lot of noise. And I get that. But I think you have to look at some of the traits that he has and say, let's compare the two between Trump and Cruz. And Cruz sticks to the Constitution.
Yeah, but Susan, we have a constitutional lawyer in the White House right now. We have the former editor of the Harvard Law Review, Harvard Law professor. I'm sure Obama could probably recite the Constitution backwards and frontwards. I'm sure he knows it well. And that hasn't gotten us far.
Well, that's because he doesn't follow the Constitution. He may know it, but he doesn't follow it. And
that's an excellent point. But how do you know Cruz will?
Because I think Cruz, honestly, from what I've seen, what I've researched, what I've heard other people say, and how he was raised. He was born, bred, and raised for this time for the Constitution. It's what he believes in, and he does believe in it, and he knows it. He's argued before the Supreme Court. You can't be a dummy and argue before the Supreme Court and win and do the things that he's done. He's not perfect. Neither is Trump. Neither is Kasich. Neither is, gosh, don't make me say Hillary and Bernie, but they're not perfect either. But I think he's a great candidate. And I know what really sometimes concerns me about what I've heard from some of the Trump people is they're willing to put the Constitution aside to get things back to the way they were and then bring the Constitution back. You can't do that. Once the Constitution goes, there's no bringing it back.
I don't think anybody wants to go back to the way anything was. I think everybody wants to, the whole Make America Great Again is a great slogan, but I think people want to move away from the way Washington has done it, move totally away from it, because Washington's 1,000% corrupt. But back to the issue at hand. Do you think the Republican establishment is, forget Trump, forget Cruz, do you think they're trying to steal the nomination and go against the will of the people? Because regardless of what camp a person's in, Trump or Cruz, they are the two. Trump's the front runner, Cruz is in second place. Okay, so when you start, and when it ends, if Trump doesn't get the 1227 or 1237 required delegates, and let's just say Cruz is somewhere around 800, 900, whatever, and one of them doesn't get it, there's going to be hell to pay, no?
There absolutely will. And I think based upon the past performance that we've seen from the GOP establishment, they want to keep their jobs. And I think right now, more than ever, they're terrified at the fact that the nation has changed and moved away from them. They're trying to make the party survive. And everybody else is saying, you know what, the party's not working. We have to change the party, and we have to do things differently than what we have done in the past. And so it wouldn't surprise me if, when we get down to to Cleveland, that they try to do something. And it's not so much to take it away from Trump or take it away from Cruz. It's how do we save ourselves? And that's exactly what I think, if anything, that they have in mind.
I'm not a supporter of Cruz, obviously, but the thing is that the reason that Cruz and Trump have risen to the top amongst everybody else is because they are outsiders. Cruz now is, he's trying to win favor with some of the establishment folks, which has really rubbed me the wrong way the last couple of weeks. But still, he's on the cusp of the outside. And they had the House. They gave them more of a majority in the House. The people did, to the Republicans. They gave them the Senate, and what did they do? They thumbed their eye at the people, and now the people are mad, and they're saying, we still want it our way. They run it. They do what they want. They run it like my HOA, my homeowners association, runs it in where I live. They take votes on stuff, and then they just do what they want anyway.
Well, the GOP and the Democratic Party have almost become inseparable. It's hard to tell which one is in which party, because for so long, for the past 8 years at least, they've melded together. And the Republicans, even though we've had the majority and everything, we have given it away to the Democratic Party. And
I
so
agree.
People are tired of it. They're not listening to the American people. They don't care what we say anymore, and that has to stop.
Exactly. Hold that thought, Susan Knowles. Will be right back. Susan, when we come back, you down to take a phone call?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll take a quick break. Susan Knowles is our guest. She's an author. She's a contributor to The Blaze, the host of Stand for Truth Radio here on the Mike Slater Show. Lou Pate sitting in the AM 760 KFMB. Welcome back to the Mike Slater Show. Lou Pate in for Mike. He'll return on Monday, but keep it tuned here. Coming up from 2 to 6, the Brett Winable Show is standing by. Brett will join us, in about a half hour or so. Right now, we've got Susan Knowles, the host of Stand for Truth Radio, a contributor to The Blaze, and the author. Author Susan, the name of your book, I minimized it. I can't find it. I'm sorry.
It's Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember.
There you go. Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. Let's take a call here. These guys have been very patient. I apologize for taking so long. Hector in Chula Vista. Hector, how are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for taking my call, and
thanks for holding.
And thank you, Susan, for trying to open the ears and eyes of Lou. When you say that Ted Cruz has gone to establishment, it's been the other way around. The establishment is so scared of someone like Trump, because with Trump we lose the Senate, we lose Congress, we lose the Supreme Court for a generation. You may
Hector,
not
you don't. Hold on, Hector. First of all, the Supreme Court's gone. I don't know if you noticed that. It was gone with Justice Roberts, who turned out to be a turncoat, voting twice for Obamacare. And we don't know what's going to happen with the House and the Senate. So you can't just make these blanket statements like it's true. Could it happen? Possibly. But can't just come on and say, we lose this, we lose that, the world is going to end. Come on, let's have a conversation.
Have you not looked at the polls? Donald Trump is the only person in the world that makes Hillary look electable. And that's why he's losing against Hillary in the polls. In the national poll, he makes her a winner. If you look at that poll, when we get killed in the California elections, like we got with Romney when we lost 20 points, it kills the rest of the down ticket. That's why the establishment, even though they don't like Ted because he's principled, they're going to him because they're trying to save as much as we can. But it wasn't Ted going to the establishment. It was the other way around. This guy, you may not like him, but the guy's principled. He's going to stick to the Constitution. He's going to appoint conservative judges, which is what we need after Scalia went. But well, Donald Trump is the only person that loses to Hillary.
You're focusing too much on the polls. It's too soon to focus on a matchup that doesn't exist. What do you think, Susan?
Well, I think one of the things that Donald Trump does have to look at, he has an uphill battle right now because in the polls, and I know we don't always like to look at polls, but 70% of the women say they dislike him and they have a problem with him.
76.
And that's 76?
76, yes.
And that's not good. And that 38% are saying right now that they would back Trump, while 56% are saying that they won't. And that's a real problem because we have split the GOP. And who knows what's going to happen if Trump goes off and becomes an independent like he may do. If he doesn't like what he's seeing, that's going to split us even further. And how in the world are we going to win against Hillary in that way? So I think even the supporters like Ann Coulter and Gingrich, they've come out and they've spoken out against Trump lately for the things that he did, especially with the picture and Ted's wife and all that going back and forth. It's ridiculous stuff that we have to quit doing. It makes the presidential office look small.
What do you think, though, Susan, that if I tell you that 100% of the women that I have dated, probably including my ex-wife, have an unfavorable view of me?
Well, I would have to look at that and say, why is that?
Listen, 76%, I'll take it. I'm at 100. I'm at 100.
Don't run for president, okay?
Oh, they'd have a field day on me. You want to know how bad it's getting? I just looked up at my screen while you were addressing Hector, and it says here, Limbaugh, Trump's abortion comments hugely damaging. Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah. Thanks. I didn't know that. I needed Rush Limbaugh to tell me that. Oh, please. But who's sitting there with Jake Tapper is Bill Kristol. I mean, Bill Kristol is just in a panic. This guy is in a panic like I have never seen before. It is truly amazing. He doesn't know what to do. And this Kayleigh McEnany, she is a Trump supporter. Her and Jeffrey Lord have been doing an incredible job just batting down all of the negativity that is coming at Trump. It's funny is that they can't hurt him, though, Susan. He hurts himself, like he did with the abortion comments. But
he hurts himself.
He hurts himself, but they can't seem to lay a glove on him. If he would just stop taking the bait. I mean, just think about all of this. We've got rappers writing songs about how they want to kill Trump. I mean, what is this all about? Where is the media on this? We have Ted Cruz the other day say he was joking, but within every joke is the truth. He wants to back his car over Donald Trump. I mean, is this unheard of?
Well, I just think, again, it's all getting out of control in that we're not thinking about the real issues and focusing on those issues. What's best for America? How do we change everything to make it work? How do we not allow Hillary Clinton to be elected? Those are the things that we should be focused on, not on whose wife did what pictures where, or anything else. I think Donald Trump really needs to start acting more presidential and start trying to bring everyone together. So far, we're not going to have a Trump-Cruz type ticket. That's probably out now. So he has to do something to turn it around if he wants to win. Otherwise, I think that the Cruz supporters, while everybody is putting Ted down, I don't think Ted's down, and I don't think Ted's out. And I think he has a real chance of winning. We'll just have to see.
I'll tell you what, Susan Knowles, we've got a couple of callers here. Could you hang for another segment? I know you've been there for a spell. I know you got to get your Guns N' Roses tickets, but can you hang out for another segment? We'll come out of the break. We'll go straight to the calls. What do you say?
That'll be great.
All right. Susan Knowles is our special guest. Follow her on Twitter at Susan Knowles. Go to her website, susanknowles.com. She's a San Diego girl, so show her some support on her Stand for Truth radio show. And what the heck, buy her book. Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. We'll take a quick break. It's the Mike Slater Show. Lou Pate in for Mike on the AM 760 KFMB. Welcome back to the Mike Slater Show. Lou Pate in for Mike with our special guest, Susan Knowles. You can check her out at SusanKnowles.com. She is a San Diego girl, so support her show, Stand for Truth Radio, and her book, Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. Let's get to the phones here. Marcus, welcome to 760 KFMB. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
I'm doing okay. What's going on?
Good.
Well, you were talking about Cruz and Trump and the allegations of the adultery. Now, Trump brags about what he's done over his lifetime in a book, how he could have married women or single women. Why are you attacking Cruz, which is just a hearsay, compared to Trump, who brags about it?
Well, first, that's the beauty of Donald Trump. He just says it like it is. Secondly, is I didn't attack Cruz for the alleged adultery. I questioned why, when he was asked, "Did you ever cheat on your wife?" he just didn't say no. That's where this all stems from. I'm getting hateful emails from Diana out there who disagreed in the last hour, Susan, saying I hate Cruz. Never said that. All I said was that he was asked by a reporter, "Have you ever cheated on your wife?" He refused to answer. And then Carly Fiorina had to jump in, and I cited a story from the Daily Mail. That's all. Whether he cheated or not, I don't know, but it raises suspicion that he refused to answer.
What about Ben Carson? He refused to answer stuff that was ridiculous.
Ben Carson's done. Come on, let's talk about today. Ben Carson's yesterday.
Well, I agree.
All right, thanks for your call, Marcus. What were you going to say, Susan? Appreciate it.
I think with Cruz, sometimes, you have to be careful as a politician, and he's also an attorney. You have to be careful on the questions that you're going to take, because if you take one question, then it's going to be, oh, okay, but you did this. Was that cheating on your wife? Was this cheating on your wife? And the question just keeps going. I really feel, I don't know if he cheated on his wife. There's no factual evidence that has been brought forth from the National Enquirer, nothing. So I think that part, it's a non-issue. But I just think that you open up a can of worms for the media to take and spin things if you talk about things that are non-factual. There's nothing factual. And when there is something factual, then he can address it at that point if and when that occurs.
All right. Well, so let's go to Tom in Poway. Tom, welcome to the show. How are you, Tom?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. I'll be quick because I want to just get to a point or two here. Two callers back talking about current head-to-head polls. March 1980, Carter 58, Reagan 33. So let's not play that game. I don't really care. I think we have to look at what's going on right now, okay? I think what's so disappointing to me as a conservative Republican, number one, first and foremost, Donald Trump, to me, is the crowbar that's needed to smash the current system and current politicians and everything. Do I love him? No. Do I like his candidates and what he's done to the system? Absolutely. He speaks to where we need to be. The problem is, and I would bet my life on this right now, the cake is already baked. As Republicans, we've already lost, okay? Because this Never Trump movement just made it so we will never win. I promise you that. Because I would have been willing to back whatever candidate it was. But these guys, and I'm talking, public figures, radio hosts, people always on the news thinking they're so smart, George Will, all these kind of people, they have all, and you talked about Bill Kristol, he's one of them. They have gone all in to just never Trump no matter what. I can tell you what. We will trounce Hillary with all of the Republicans behind Trump and everybody he brings in. We will trounce her. Now, Cruz, if he does make it, I'm afraid it's going to be Romney too. There's just, to my conservative buddies out there, there's not enough conservatives alone to win. There's just not. So you have to broaden the base. Love him or hate him, he has brought in Democrats, people who've never voted. He's brought in independents. He's brought in huge numbers that the Republicans always said that they're looking for. Now that they have them, I can't believe what's happened. And that Never Trump movement, to me, there's no daylight between them and the left. The tactics, the nasty tactics they're using is the same as the left. In fact, I think it's worse than the left because they're doing it to their own party's frontrunner, which the left would never do. This is unfortunately, Tom, I just think it's over.
You make a great point. Don't go away. You make a great point, and it's what Susan touched on before. Susan Knowles, our guest. Susan, you said we have to come together, and I think that's Tom is saying. Tom makes excellent points. What do you think?
Tom makes a great point, but I think what happened, we have to look at it from both sides. One, there is the Never Trump movement, but the reason that started is because of the rhetoric that people on the Cruz side heard about Donald Trump talking about Ted Cruz. There's the lying Cruz. I mean, that Donald Trump has said himself. So you've got everybody, the candidates are splitting everybody apart. And again, the Never Trump started because of the fact that people weren't listening to the Cruz supporters. And it's turned off a lot of Cruz supporters who were potentially Donald Trump supporters.
All right. No, excellent point. And Tom, we lost you there. Tom Poway, thanks for your call. Steve, in a car, you're on with Lou Pate and Susan Knowles. Welcome to KFMB.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Listen, Lou, I appreciate the fact that, you're a conservative guy, but I really think that a lot of your opinions are ill-advised and, in fact, downright wrong. I mean, when you make statements like, Cruz couldn't get elected dog catcher or Cruz has been bought and paid for, that kind of rhetoric is just left garbage, and you know that it is. I understand that as a radio talk show host, you want to stir the pot and, get a little controversy, you get people call in, but I also get the sense that you believe these things. And to me, it's just destructive because it propagates the left narrative. I think your guest, Susan, is very wise when she said that Cruz not addressing the National Enquirer, comments from the Daily Mail for the purpose of not engaging it because you who said, it would put it to rest, I don't believe it will. And Susan addressed that perfectly. So I kudos to her. I think you're wrong about putting it to rest. I think her take is right. Your last
okay, but Steve, hold on. One quickly. If they said, have you ever cheated on your wife? And he said no. And then they follow up with another question. You say, I've answered your question. Let's move on. Couldn't he do that?
You're missing the point that Susan made. In this environment, with this media, they would not put it to rest. They would pursue it. Let me remind you, not a single shred of evidence has come forward. And I guarantee that in today's environment, with everybody's got a phone, everybody's got a camera, et cetera, if Cruz had been engaged in some kind of, illicit behavior, where is it? How come it hasn't come forward?
Well, hold on. There's no evidence of a lot of people cheating in the past that we know have. And I'm talking modern day with phones everywhere. Just because you didn't get caught doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Listen. One of the questions you put to what a previous caller was, where's your proof that Trump lied? Sometimes it's a question of plausibility.
No, hold on. You got to get straight. No, you got to get straight. I said, where is your proof that Donald Trump was involved with the National Enquirer? And I said, give me one quote that Trump made. But I could say, I was short on time. You wanted to comment on a previous caller too, Steve.
Yeah. So the previous caller, was singing the praises of Trump. Listen, the problem for me with Trump is that he is unprincipled. He changes his views. He is unpredictable. And this is a guy who, because he's a deal maker, the very same people that trumpet him now, he can turn around and stab them in the back if it means making a deal. I want a guy who is principled, has a history of doing what he says. Nobody comes as close to as Cruz does to that kind of integrity.
Okay, but Steve, then what do you think about Cruz trying to woo the establishment that he's been lambasting for the last however many years?
That is a left-wing narrative. He's not wooing them. They are coming to him.
Oh, come on. That's a spin.
No.
All right, listen. Even if they were coming to him, he should shun them.
No, listen to me.
But he's not. He's embracing them because he wants the power.
No, I disagree with you. I
understand
have to agree where you're coming from, but listen. Cruz understands that, like Reagan, and in contrast to your last caller, like Reagan, Cruz has to have an umbrella that takes in a broad base, right? That is what he is doing. But this is a guy who, by his record, has stood by his principles. You know, even if it's establishment guys coming to him for their own reasons, Cruz is not going to fold to them once in office. This is a principled man who has proven himself.
If he folds to them on the campaign trail by embracing them, he'll fold in office. We'll have to agree to disagree, Steve, but excellent call. Do appreciate it. Susan Knowles, your call, we could finish where we have to go, but we'll finish where we stood. I agree with you. We have to come together.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And it looks like Californians are starting to, right now, it's almost like a dead heat between Trump and Cruz. So it's going to be interesting to see what the low turnout possibly in June will do, and if that pushes Cruz over the edge that he needs in California.
June 7th, California, April 19th, the biggie with New York, and before then, Tuesday in Wisconsin. Susan Knowles, thank you for your time. Again, check out her book. She's a local San Diego girl. Show support. Freedom's Fight, A Call to Remember. Go to SusanKnowles.com, follow her on Twitter at Susan Knowles, and check out her commentaries on The Blaze. Susan Knowles, did I leave anything out? One more time, when does Stand for Truth come on?
Monday nights, 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific and 9 o'clock Eastern.
Susan, thank you for your time, and I will be in touch, and hopefully you can come back again here to the AM 760 KFMB. Have a great weekend.
You too.